I have a lot of people, that kind of go back and forth on this exposure bucks, doing projects that aren't paid. And, I agree with that most of the times, but I do think there's a lot of merit in doing a passion project, or even I see, startup breweries do a beer label contest. And I think, that really does help get you out there and get you seen and get you in front of the right people. It builds the portfolio. And then if the piece is used, then it's a real piece and not just a student project. So, I really encourage it. You're going to be making stuff anyway. So, just keep getting stuff out there, and hopefully you'll get noticed and recognized and discovered to land that paying job.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Design Rescue Show. I am your host, David Block. Today, I am happy to introduce an award-winning illustrator and the creative force behind Hoot Design Studio, Jen Borror. Welcome to the show, Jen.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you could spend the time with me. And this show is basically a chance to go through your career kind of path, your career history. You currently run a design firm called the Hoot Design Studio, right? And I'd like to know if you could give us a rundown of what you do on a day-to-day basis. How do you go about your daily routine at Hoot Design Studio?
Sure. Yeah. I primarily specialize in packaging and label design with hand-drawn custom illustration. I really promote that you will not find clip art here. You will not find AI-generated images. Everything is from the think tank up here to pencil and paper to the computer as, my finishing tool to polish off those ideas. So a lot of label design. I work in the beer community. I've done dozens of beer label designs, variety packs and cases. You can see some of them hiding out there behind me. All kinds of, illustration for packaging, from cosmetics. Got to do some sunscreen this year, some hot sauce, some salsa labels. So pretty primarily in the food and beverage industry.
Hoot Design Studios has also produced a lot that's in the Adobe stock galleries. And I noticed you got illustrations, you have logos, you've got all kinds of great stuff in there. When did that start, and how'd you get into that?
Yeah, I guess that kind of started back at, in the college days at the Art Institute. They encouraged us to sign up and set up that profile, and just some, logos, some vectors that we're learning to draw, just kind of dabbling at creating stuff and throwing it on there. And, as I freelanced, we're looking, oh my gosh, 20 years out now from when I graduated college. That library of, I kind of call it like the morgue, of unaccepted concepts when you're doing the logo design process, and bits and bobs from other illustrations that go unused. I put them on Adobe stock. It's a great way to, kind of have a little passive income for some stuff you already spent the time and energy and creative stuff on.
Oh, that's fantastic. So as you mentioned, you went to the Art Institute of York, Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, yep. It was Bradley Academy back in 2004, and then the Art Institute had come in and bought them out. But similar program in school. It was awesome.
So I'd like to know, if from your time, thinking back to that time in your education, what was one of the main sort of valuable takeaways that you've kept with you all this time, sort of integrated into your routine? Has there been anything that you've kept with you in your routine?
I think that the manual analog process, I remember the first couple classes, one of the teachers like smacked a T-square on the desk, and he told everybody to put their magic boxes away, the laptops and computers. We were drawing typography. Everything was by hand. Everything was with rulers and the Rapidograph, the pens. I don't know if you remember filling those up and having ink everywhere. And, the days of just drawing by hand on paper before you even get into the computer, before you launch Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop, and before the iPad had Procreate. It was are you creative and get it out on pencil, paper, pencil first. Paper and pencil. You might have to re-edit that one. But, yeah, I think that's a key takeaway that, makes my art stand out a little bit from some of the other beer label artists in, the community, is that I draw everything by hand first.
Right. Super important to the creative process. Absolutely. I teach that in my class. I think it's super important. In fact, I give free sketchbooks at the, week 3. We got to see who stays in the class or not. But yeah, everybody gets free sketchbooks and we practice sketching. I think it's a super important skill to learn.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah. So now, after you got out of college, I'm curious, what were your first steps into the industry? How did you get your first job, and what was that? What was that experience like, looking for your first job, first occupation?
Yeah, I always love those stories, kind of looking back at like where I'm at now with Hoot Design Studio, going full-time freelance, to where I used to be 20 years ago. I would drive an hour one way, up from York to Lancaster to a sign shop. It was called Fast Signs. And I learned everything, the cut vinyl. There was a program called Composer, which was kind of like uh, a digital, almost like a knockoff of Adobe Illustrator, where you had a pen tool and you could create vector graphics so that it could be sent to the plotter to cut it out. So I was loading the paper and the printer and the vinyl, and then helping apply the signs and squeegee them, paste up huge murals. And we did a lot of, they called them work orders. So it was probably 20, 30 work orders a day. So that job like really taught me production, and that it's all about get it done, get it out, get it done as fast as you can. And they promoted buying clip art. So, that's where my journey started to begin, that like, this is a design job, but this is more production. And I feel very stifled as a designer, and I want to be able to design more things other than the hours on the front door of a barbershop. I feel like I have so much more to give than
Yeah.
just, kind of being a keyboard puppeteer for that stuff.
Right.
So my next position, I kind of got into a little bit more creative role, working at an auctioneer house. So I got to lay out the postcards and a lot of print collateral, which allowed for the layout skills and things to come in handy.
Right. Right. So now you started out a lot, doing a lot of freelance, right? Is that right? In the beginning of your work in the industry. And I'm
Yeah.
curious, yeah, what was your experience? What were the challenges that you faced as a freelancer? But I think it's important to get experience working for somebody else, a lot of times. I'm curious how that worked out in your career.
Yeah. I've always freelanced. I've always had that 9 to 5 traditional job at, either the sign company, an agency. I worked for York Wall Coverings, a wallpaper company, and I always freelanced on the side because there was always so much more I wanted to do, and it kind of fulfilled that creative uh, niche, that edge that I was looking for.
I'm sure it was difficult to find. I mean, as freelancer, it's usually difficult to find clients. And I'm curious how, as a starting, as a beginner in the industry, I'm curious how it worked out for you.
Yeah, it's always a struggle trying to find good clients and the
Yeah.
right clients and the clients that have the right budgets. And I don't know how many projects I did for exposure. I'm sure, you talk to your students about exposure bucks and just building a portfolio. And definitely in the beginning, I did a lot of stuff for nonprofits and kind of pro bono, just trying to
Oh,
build a portfolio, trying to build the social media, showing what I can do so that that would lead to a paying job. And then hopefully repeat business from that nonprofit if something I did was a success, which totally worked out. I remember doing a lot of art in residence posters and tickets and just other things, kind of helping the art community and being a part of. There was a local downtown artists, show and stuff. And what could I do to kind of give back? And then it gets your name out there, and then it's a trickling, it's a building of the network, a building of the portfolio, to slowly start to get that paid job that you want. For me, and I'm sure like a lot of others, it's not something that just happens overnight. It does take a lot of hard work, a lot of networking, and just continuing to create stuff every day and put it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're enjoying this video, please take a moment to hit that like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our future videos. Thank you. So now your work in the craft beer label industry, right? Could you talk about a specific project that, like the award-winning your Gold Crushy for the best hard seltzer label design? I'm curious if you could talk about that project, the creative process involved, and how it impacted your career.
Yeah, wow. Oh, that's a good loaded question. I actually took home 3 Crushy Awards this past year.
Hey.
So excited. You can see one of the, well, if I use the right mirroring image, a box for Schlafly. They're out of St. Louis. So I got to do all 4 can labels that are inside the box, but then also that variety pack, that packaging, which was incredible to work on, to just kind of bring the aesthetic. It's all German beers. So the theme of it is just like this cobblestone little German scene of the town. And each side of the box has a different illustration. So when you line them up at the beer distributor, the towns are like, there's different things happening on every side of the box, which then connects you to the inside on the can labels with, the pattern design and what have you. It was just super, super rewarding to work on. Usually I start with a mood board of images, when the client came to me and was like, hey, we got these 4 German beers. We're thinking a German style, illustration. So we kicked it off with a discovery call and just sharing a mood board that I put together of styles and scenes and photographs, textures, colors, typography, and just kind of narrowed it down to what they liked, what they didn't like. And then the sketching began, pencil and paper, and Procreate, on the just illustrating digitally with the pencil on there, and continuing to share the concepts back and forth till we nailed it. And then once it was nailed, the final illustration was actually, for this one, was drawn in Procreate digitally with different brushes and different patterns and textures behind the illustration work. So that was super fun to do, to kind of incorporate some of the textures that you can't get with traditional analog illustration.
Right. Do you work with a team? Typically, like currently, do you work with a team, or are you a one person design studio?
I am a one-person design studio, jack of all trades. I do subcontract some stuff out. I work with Jeremy Friend, lettering artist, a lot for different logo design, and he helped do some of the lettering on the Schlafly can, some of the Dunkel, that black letter. It's just incredible, the work that he, it just elevates the design even further, having that custom typography on there. So, but yeah, it's just me in the studio.
So I know I'm curious about the project of Make Peace Not War, the beer label collaboration that you were involved with. What was your role in that collaboration, and what were some of the challenges in that project?
Oh man, that one was awesome. You can see the flag behind me. I illustrated this one day, like on my couch, just literally, as all this stuff was going down with Ukraine, and I was just like, I had to draw something with all these feelings that I was feeling, and that's where this peace sign came out in the UK, Ukraine flag colors, which just the beautiful nature, flowers, just something that everybody could relate to, whether what side of the fence you are on. We are all people here, like we just have peace and not war. So I posted it on Instagram and was like, hey, would anybody be interested? Like, I feel like there's something in the beer community that we can do with this. Like, how can we give back? Like, who wants to help me? I want to donate, this design that I made and put it on a beer label. And how can we somehow give back to all the different efforts and campaigns that are going on in Ukraine? And before you know it, I had so many different people reaching out and collaborations. And I think we had probably 15 different breweries from around the world. We had some in Australia and Abu Dhabi sign up for the program. So for each uh, beer that sold or six pack that sold with this design on it, they gave so much back to a fundraiser of their choice. And I'm not sure the exact numbers, but I know it was, thousands that was raised on behalf of like this design and the beer label. And it was a no recipe collaboration. So the breweries weren't obligated to brew a special IPA, or they could just relabel something that's already a top seller, just put this label on it and encourage people to buy it, and that you're donating 10% or 20. We had a brewery down in Maryland that donated 100% of the sales to the fundraiser of their choice. So it was just it was phenomenal to see, how it took off just from an idea that I was just watching Netflix and drawing something on the couch that I was like, what can I do to help? I'm just this little artist here in York, Pennsylvania, and I'm feeling so much that you're seeing in the news. And I'm like, there's got to be something with the connections I have in the beer community. They do, all kinds of other breast cancer give backs and different things. I'm like, there's got to be something we can come together to do. So that was great. The challenge of it was, as you had asked in your question, was it went from something small to way bigger than I could have imagined. And with having my full-time job, and this was just a pro bono thing for me to want to help out, it
Yeah.
became consuming some weeks where it was, a second job for me. But we pushed through that. We got the collateral, the marketing out there. I had an amazing team at First Studios. They did some recordings, and they were keeping track of all the contracts coming in from the breweries and where the money went. So I didn't have to worry about all the logistical stuff. I could just be the designer and the marketer in the campaign.
Wow, that's an amazing story. What a great passion project. That's fantastic. Have you done other passion projects, and do you suggest that new designers take on passion projects, and of course to build up their portfolio, right? But I'm curious how you feel about that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of people, that kind of go back and forth on this exposure bucks, doing projects that aren't paid. And, I agree with that most of the times, but I do think there's a lot of merit in doing a passion project, or even I see, startup breweries do a beer label contest. And I think, that really does help get you out there and get you seen and get you in front of the right people. It builds the portfolio. And then if the piece is used, then it's a real piece and not just a student project. So, I really encourage it. You're going to be making stuff anyway. So, just keep getting stuff out there, and hopefully you'll get noticed and recognized and discovered to land that paying job. But always when you have time, the paying work and the clients come first.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, looking at your diverse portfolio, if you could pick one project that stood out as sort of a turning point for your career, like pivotal, maybe you were focused in one direction and it pulled you in a different direction, or something like that. But is there any project you could talk about that was pivotal for your career?
Yeah, I think last year I actually have it sitting on my desk here because I used it earlier. For Badger Balm, I got to do some painterly illustrations for their packaging, for their sunscreen, and then their face sunscreen that came in the box. So I think this was a huge pivotable moment for me, because I primarily was doing most of my labels and packaging was in the beer community. And while I love the beer community, I was always trying to branch out to like, what's next? What other packaging? And I love to illustrate botanicals. I love, kind of diving into the cosmetic industry of something a little bit more soft versus sometimes the beer labels, the concepts are really out there. I got to give the brewers the creative credit for the beers they're brewing and the ideas they have. But sometimes I just want to draw some pretty flowers.
I hear you.
So I think the sunscreen project from Badger really helped launch me, opened up my eyes and my portfolio to what else is out there, other than beer labels. And after kind of posting this on Behance and Dribbble and Instagram, LinkedIn, I've noticed a flood of new clients outside the beer industry. Just like I said, a salsa, hot sauce, boxes for Universal Yums, a snack food distribution, and just a ton of really exciting new avenues. And I think it's just the beginning, you know. And I think this was the project that kind of opened that door for me.
Oh, that's awesome. What a great story. Thank you for imparting that to us. I appreciate that. And we've actually made it right to the end of the show. I've got one question left. I know. It flew right by. Just,
We're doing
so,
good. I know that we could talk forever.
no. So my last question has to do with advice, and I'm curious if you have any pearls of wisdom, any advice that you would give any aspiring creatives about, you know, balancing the creative and business aspects of running a design studio.
Yeah, that's tough. It's really tough. I've done, you know, a few speaking engagements to the local college and illustrators and the design classes, and you know, they're like, "How do I do what you're doing?" And just excited to dive into packaging. And you know, I remind them that there are days where I don't even open Photoshop or Illustrator. I'm sitting here writing contracts, I'm doing accounts receivable and payable and emails and Zoom calls. And you know, I feel like sometimes I'm only drawing or being a designer 10% of the time. You know, there's so much business and other roles in content management and social media and promoting yourself and putting yourself out there and networking and being your own salesperson. And you know, I think you know, a key advice that I would give is like, yes, you can have an amazing portfolio and you can be super talented at design, but you also have to have the people skills and the communication skills to be able to deliver what you know you're good at and be able to sell that and show people what you're good at. So just keep posting the type of work you want to attract. You know, you want to get into packaging, make mock-ups, even if it isn't for a paid client, post them and just continue to keep sharing the work that you want to be doing. And, you know, eventually things will start to gain traction. Real jobs that you'll be able to start posting those, and that'll lead to the next thing. And it's all about networking and putting yourself out there and not being afraid to ask and reach out, you know.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for that. It's very, very good advice. And on that note, I wanted to thank you for being here and thank you for your time and being a part of my show.
Yeah, absolutely.